Okay, so Delve ended as I ran out of time. But even though I'm not playing in the gauntlet this time, it looks like somebody is who is using these flasks that recover charges on hit. So if we look at the items for this particular character, this one recovers 6 charges when hit by an enemy, and it's used when charges reach full. 6 charges when you're hit by an enemy, and used when charges reach full. And 6 charges when used by an enemy, and again the same thing where it's being used when charges reach full. There's a little bit of investment in flash charges gained, 30% here. And then on the tree, there is over here another 10%. So there's 40% increased flash charges gained. This doesn't mean that they're going to recover their life for every hit, right? This is going to be less frequent than this. It's actually going to mean that for 20 charge flask, they actually need to be hit 3 times, I believe. Right? Because 2 times means 12 charges, and then they have the like 50% increase. They also have 60% increase. Spike concoction, so that's like another 6, 7 charges. So they're like at 18, 19 charges, right? So it's not enough. But this build also doesn't try to get hit as often, right? This is an evasion-based build. The idea is you get hit a whole lot less often, and it uses Ghost Dance. So Ghost Dance would of course recover up to their energy shield, and that means that if you get hit less frequently, you recover a whole bunch of energy shield and a bunch of life when you get hit or shotgunned. So that's more useful. The other thing is that your flash charges gained every 3 seconds become far more important when you don't get hit as often. Right? Whereas if you recover your charges for every hit and you get hit 10 times a second, well, then this is completely meaningless. On the other hand, if you get hit a whole bunch less frequent, then it's a lot more practical to have something like this and passive charge generation, so that you actually do recover life on most hits. And it also becomes more important to have this chance of flash not to consume charges, which means that 1 in 5 times, you get an extra 6% life. Whereas if you recover all your charges on every hit, that's no longer as important. As far as how this build is doing, this is Quantrix. This is the #1 Pathfinder in the Gauntlet. I will make sure to put a link in the comments to his Twitch and to his character. I think he made it public yesterday, like Sunday. I believe it was private up to that point. But yeah, we're seeing some of the same things in here, where there's a little bit of investment in flash charges gained. There is the roll on the flasks to have the charges gained whenever you get hit. There is the Master Surgeon, and those things combined allow you to have a bunch of extra recovery whenever you get hit. And in this gauntlet, shotgunning is more likely, so that's good. Now, can you do this in heist? Because heist is up next. No. Because the 9% of maximum life as extra energy shield, that mod, is super important to have on your armor. And you can't get that, because that's a crafted mod and you get it from Syndicate. So, yeah. This is really cool. It's a different approach towards the same idea of getting these flash charges up. For infrequent big hits, this is way better, right? Because instead of recovering 6% of your life, or like 18% of your life, you have a bunch of evasions, so you don't take a lot of big hits. And if you do, you recover like 12%-ish of his life just from the Ghost Dance, and then on top of it, some life as well. So super useful, super tanky. I mean, it's surviving in the gauntlet. So this is an interesting way to go on this. But unfortunately, it's not very practical to go this way for heist, because that craft on the chest is a cornerstone to being able to pull this off. Of course, you can get these things. It's also a good, I believe it's a Scourge Arrow. No, it's Toxic Rain. So it's a Toxic Rain build. If you want to play Toxic Rain, this probably has a lot of things to learn from. But yeah, I'm happy to see other people experimenting with this as well. So it's kind of cool to be aware of. And you can now check out his character as long as he leaves it public. I don't know if he will. Okay, let's go. And yeah, I do want to save this. I don't know if I spelled that right. I put in my blue. So I've been looking at different options for this tree, because as a number of people have mentioned, around level 75 it got pretty rough. And I think part of that is that around level 75, you if you can't kill the ads fast enough, and you have some rare, so you can't kill the rares fast enough, not the ads, and you have a rare which shows up and they have a whole bunch of elemental resistance, and they get a buddy who also have elemental resistance, and you're dealing with higher scaled monsters, which means their base resistances also go up. Ignite sucked. I switched to Ignite early, and it was really good for a while, and then you on occasion just have a combination of rares, and you're like, well, this is not going anywhere. So a couple of things I didn't do, which I should have, is use Infernal Cry. That would have helped out a lot. I also hopefully would have been able to take the normal mobs and explode them to help chunk away the big guy. But looking at it, there was a lot of investment, right? We had chance to ignite. We had chance to ignite down here, right? Because you have to ignite. Then we have elemental equilibrium because you have to deal with the resistances. We're looking at covering enemies in ash. Curses. There was a lot of involved work to try and get these ignites to work. And we just don't have a lot of tools on the tree here to really make these ignites shine. Which kind of led to the next option for damage over time, which would be bleed. So there's two bleed clusters. There's one down here and there's one over here. And we can use puncture for 8 seconds, 100% uptime bleeds. We can, and bleeds an ailment, so we can still use the Dire Torment. We can use the Perfect Agony. We can have the occasional crits, and we can leverage that for really big bleeds. Pretty cool. Which means the pathing changes up here, because we want to pick up this bleed mastery, and we want to have this damage over time multiplier for bleeding, which is awesome. 6% damage over time, another 6% damage over time. This is compared to what we were seeing for Ignite, where we were able to grab 6% only once and then 12%, versus over here where we have 15%, 6 and 6, so a lot more damage over time multiplier. And the hope is that's going to be a little bit easier to get a good physical bow in Heist. Of course, also a lot easier to get a good fire bow in Heist with the experimental basis. But as you see, this tree isn't a whole lot different, right? You can pick up these nodes and these nodes over here. Right? That's kind of the difference that you're looking at versus the bleed nodes. So you can kind of wait until you either have a good physical bow and you can go bleed, or a good fire bow and you can go ignite. And up to that point, you play elemental hit. Unless you have the gear to comfortably start doing level 80 plus content, elemental hit is kind of what you have to stick with, and that means that you have to get the +2 bow, and there's a lot of frustration, but you do alleviate a lot of gearing pressure, and hopefully in heist, gear is going to be easier to come by. I will personally be focusing on the, what are they? I think it's demolition and engineering. No, it's brute force and engineering, and I'll be buddying up with Huck, and my goal will be to get my hands on a whole bunch of uniques, like especially low-level uniques, and then see whether or not I have the means to go for something pretty good in the bleed territory, or I get something that allows me to go pretty good into the ignite territory. But I wouldn't have switched away from elemental hit until you are comfortable making that change. Other things, by pathing over here and pathing over here, we can run 3 50% auras. So we will be running Pride, Grace, and Determination. We are still going to be switching everything to armor using iron reflexes. We'll be getting endurance charges whenever we're hit. We're going to be running 5 endurance charges. 5 endurance charges means that we get 15% damage over time multiplier from the endurance charges on the bleed mastery, and we pick up the 80% increased critical strike chance against bleeding enemies, which again makes our attacks more consistent. Life on the tree, not amazing, 115. So might have to make some sacrifices on the damage. Pathing, not too keen on. I like picking up Unwavering Stance for what's going to come to us at heist, because getting stun locked whenever you go through a door is, well, it means you die. So let's avoid that. We're investing more in these nodes because now we can use Deadly Draw, which is damage over time. And we can also grab the damage over time here with the increased physical damage with bows. So yeah, that makes this wheel much better. So we definitely are pathing to that. I've got dirty techniques on here. I'm not sure if that's going to be worth it or not. It's a few nodes to get there. It's just 215% and then 10% more. I mean, 10% more is pretty good. And then the question is, how is your crit setup going to look, right? Do we need this node for the crit mastery? With the reduced extra damage from critical strikes here and here. We might not need it, might not be worthwhile. We don't have the ability to pop our flasks on every hit. We'll be looking at every other hit, but we also have endurance charges, so that might work out. So there's still some figuring stuff out aspects to this build. Yeah, pretty excited for heist. I'm interested to see how things are gonna go. I think I'll probably go solo self-found on the heist because trade seems weird. Although maybe a trade would be a much better idea. I don't know. Might change my mind on that. But I'll still be looking to experiment with Flask's shenanigans. And rather than going in with the plan which I did the first time, which the elemental hit stuff worked out quite well, I'm going to be more open to changes depending on what uniques I find. I probably would have done a lot better in the delve if I had switched earlier to a different character just because of the uniques I found, rather than trying to keep making my burning arrow work. Still, pretty happy with the setup. Still think there's potential in it. And if nothing else, this will be a different take on the idea. And we might end up running it anyway once the actual next league comes out. But we'll see. Part of me kind of hopes that they're gonna fix the mod or the passive on the ranger, meaning that they either fix Master Surgeon. Let me update this. They're gonna fix Master Surgeon, which could be not good, right? If this gets a timer on it or something like that, then that would not be great. That would be a bit of a nerf. Or that they change the mod on those flasks. I don't have them on here. Where you get hit, you get the flask charges, and put some sort of timer on that. If that's the case, that is the end of the shenanigans of going with iron reflexes. And then will be much more looking like the build Quantric is playing, of being up in this area of the tree and being pure evasion, while using that as an additional mitigation factor, but while still really hoping to get hit very infrequently. Whereas part of our recovery before, because we had a bunch of armor, came from we get big hits, we get small hits. Our small hits, we heal more than we take damage, which means that the occasional big hit we can recover from over time. With evasion, that would still be true, but the variance would be much higher. And small hits tend to not hit you because those mobs in general don't have as good an accuracy as the big guys. So yeah, that's what's coming up. Get the heist cheat sheet. I'll put in a link. And check out Quantric. And we'll see how far he takes it. I'll keep an eye on his build, and I look forward to see where he progresses it. But I don't know. I think he has a fairly comfortable lead on the Ranger leaderboard, so it might not go much further than it is right now. And yeah, have fun on the future events.